Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Mandy. I'm going to do another paper collage today. I'm going to try to do what my stepdaughter wants. And if you missed our color art collaboration, I did my first one then. And some of these that I'm showing you are prints that I did at that time. So we're still using some of those papers, and then I created some off camera because I didn't have enough space on my phone. So anyway, I'm just kind of showing you the process. So this is using a jelly plate. This is sped up like 1,000 times, but just to show you how we're kind of using color to build layers. I used color art for pretty much all of these. All of the stencils I'm using are from joggles.com, and I'm rolling the paint out with a brayer. So I do have an Amazon storefront where I have started creating things for paper collage, but I just kind of wanted to show you where some of these are coming from because I did not film all of the papers I'm going to use for this collage, but I wanted you to see the process. And don't judge because I was very early figuring this out, but it is so much fun. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to work on a 10 by 20 level 1 canvas. I painted over a painting I didn't like. And I'm starting with this tissue paper that I had sprayed to color it, which I don't mind the tissue paper. I had seen another artist do this around her edges, and because tissue paper covers and lays down really nicely, she made the suggestion that it works great for the edges, and it looked great on her piece, but I didn't particularly like that in this case. So what I'm doing, just to kind of explain, is I'm using golden gel gloss as kind of a glue, and so I'm brushing some on and putting the paper down and then brushing some over to kind of tack it down. But this particular tissue paper I had sprayed, so it had kind of crinkled up, and so it didn't want to lay down flat. It made things difficult for me when I put stuff over it. So I think if I do that again, I'm going to use like deli paper or something. So here I'm just kind of showing you the various papers I may be using, and I'm going to obviously have to speed this way up, but I've got the initial tissue paper down, and now I'm starting to lay down pieces of collage paper. You'll see that where I start off, I'm thinking I'm going to use this tissue paper as a border, and you'll see later on that I end up really not liking it. And that's the kind of interesting thing about paper collage is, like, you go in and you might have an idea, but until you start putting it down, it's difficult to see how it's going to play out until you can see it. At least it is for me. So most of these I did with regular like printer paper. There's obviously much better papers that you can do, like some sketch paper, various different kinds. But I was still really new, so I was just using what we had. I also took some white packing paper out of some packages and I saved it, and it worked really well. So some of these I used in my first paper collage, and some of them are new. I did not film all of these. I really do like, so this right here that I'm using right here is tissue paper, and I really do like using tissue paper. Not entirely, not for the whole piece, but tissue paper is transparent, so it helps blend some like harsh edges, or if you have some place where you're putting pieces together and it just looks weird, you can tear a small piece of tissue paper and blend. Or you can, you'll see at the end where there's some places that I don't feel have good coverage, or I don't particularly like a particular area, I tear some pieces of tissue paper and it works so nicely. So I like to do, if I have a little bit of paint left on the gel plate, I like to pick it up with tissue paper, because then you have some very subtle prints kind of just available. So, and that actually really worked the first time to pull the piece together as well. So I'm just using my paintbrush to spread the gel gloss underneath where I'm putting my paper. On that corner closest to me, I actually just used some tissue paper to cover the corner. Also works great on the corners because you can bend it almost like you're wrapping a present around the corners, and it lays down really well. So this tissue paper that I have in my hand, it was actually something I did before the first one. So I'm using up the rest of it. And I just basically picked up what was left on my gel plate and made a really cool design. So as I'm laying it down, you know, I'm no pro at this, but I'm trying to look at, you know, how am I balancing it out? If I have like a bright yellow on one side, I don't want to put the only other bright yellow piece I have right next to it. I want to, you know, put it on the other side. So you can see I'm trying to kind of figure that out. But at this point, I'm like, why did I do this blue tissue paper? And I end up entirely covering it up. So had I realized how I was going to feel like that about it, then I would have just started without it. But, you know, once it's down, it's down. So this one is a paper I did with that packing paper, and I really like it. It's got a nice shiny surface, and so it absorbs the paint really nicely. It's very malleable. It's easy to tack down. So you can see I'm trying to figure out where I want to put it. So that's why this probably took me, mind you, I already had everything printed on paper. This probably took me 2 full hours just to put it together. And so editing this down, I got to get all this stuff off my phone. So anyway, I hope my stepdaughter likes it. I haven't heard back yet, but the first one she really, really loved. She just didn't like the circles that I added to the end as much. So I told her I would take another stab at it for her. So I'm super excited too. I just got a whole bunch of new stencils, so I haven't had a chance to try them, but I can't wait to play with them. And for the most part, everything I used, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 colors for all of these, is color art in some capacity. So when I tried with the Purely Pigments, I found that mixing them in either a clear fluid acrylic or vivid enamel or some sort of clear base makes them work the best, but they work great if you mix them into something. Obviously the color art fluid acrylics work great. So I also I took some of my bloom paints. There's another piece of that tissue paper. I took some of my bloom paints that were older and I watered them down and I used them for gel printing, mostly for backgrounds. But if you know me, you know I'm very committed to not wasting paint, especially paint that I've mixed in a very expensive paint base. So I went and grabbed some of them that I had, you know, tried to refresh, and you know, to use them in a bloom at this point would probably mess up the consistency. So one day I just was like, I bet this will work. And I grabbed some and I was like, it works great. And some of them I even like dropped a couple drops of Purely Pigments in to tweak the color and see what it would look like. So sorry, I'm a little bit out of frame there. I am getting something down on the edge, and because it's a really tall canvas and I had gel gloss that was wet on the top, I couldn't flip it over for you. So I went and I gave up on my thumbtacks and I went and got my paint pyramids. Paint pyramids work great as long as you don't have to move your canvas, but if you have to pick it up and put it back down, sometimes they fall over and you have to reposition them. But for this, you know, they work pretty well. I also have some stands that I got from Etsy. I probably should break them out and use them for stuff like this. So this is actually something I did with some leftover bloom paints. You can see when you see it up close, it's got kind of a sparkly background, and then I used the stencil with some blue black for some contrast. And you'll notice I'm using a lot of circle patterns on this one. I love the circle stencils. I'm definitely drawn to them. I like the geometric type shapes of the abstract and all of that. But my stepdaughter also really likes the circles. So I didn't want to waste that cute little piece of paper, so I just stuck it there, and I figured it's probably going to get covered up anyway. So now that I've put that bright yellow color there, I'm like, well, I want to put it somewhere else because I really liked the way that paper turned out, and it was really simple. So I don't like this corner because of the stupid tissue paper situation. So I decided, well, I'm just going to cover it up. And so you can kind of see how this becomes like a, you kind of go down this rabbit hole of, okay, like where am I going to put this? But it's oddly therapeutic because the creative part of your brain is fully engaged. So when I was making this, I was listening to a book for school, and believe it or not, my brain is the kind of weird that if I'm doing something like this and I'm listening to something on Kindle, I can pay better attention. I know that might be super strange, but that actually helps me to do something like that. So this next paper I really like. It's got the Titan teal as a background, and I think I went over it with either a regular teal or a cobalt aqua. I don't know, but I really like the way that one turned out. It's a nice pop of turquoise, amongst the yellow and the lime green. And so anyway, I hope that you guys are not bored by this. I really enjoy it. I will do some videos where I just do the gel printing so you can see the papers, the process of the papers, especially if you're interested in doing this, because there is, it's not as like intuitive as you might think. You start doing it and you're like, wait, how did they do that? And so I will try to share some of those with you guys. The problem is, like if I turn my camera on when I'm doing that, it's an hour's worth of gel printing. So I probably need to just record a couple here and there and upload them separately, because it's a lot to try to keep it on my phone, which is already almost running out of space all the time. So you can tell I really love this yellow and blue paper. I just love the color. I love the pop it adds to the piece. Now, realize that some of what you're seeing here looks milky because of the gel gloss, but the gel gloss will dry clear. So I don't know if I'll have time to wait to show you a dried result because of space on my phone, but I will try to add one at the end. But it might look milky, but it will dry clear. So try to envision that being a strong, bright color. So it's coming along, right? It took, like I said, about 2 hours for me to do this. And so needless to say, I got a lot of my book read while I was reading and doing this, or listening and doing this. And what I think will be fun is you can see, I also use way too much gel gloss, by the way. But you can see that once I cover up these bigger spaces, I'll come in with some tissue paper that I had done a couple days before that, and I will make a lot of this look a lot more natural, if something like this can look natural, by using those tissue papers. So anyway, I hope that you enjoy this. I'm really glad that once upon a time I bought a gallon of gel gloss, because I went through an 8-ounce container, like with 2 of these paintings. So I know I'm using too much of it. But the copy paper and all that is a little bit stiffer. So, okay, so here's the tissue paper. You can see, let me slow this part down. Okay, you can see, I have it kind of to the side there where we've got, and I've got it's got 2 different colors. There's kind of a blue color. I think it's viola blue, and kind of a turquoise color. I think it was teal indigo that was already on the plate. And so you can see I'm using it where my edges are a little bit off. Works great to soften edges. It works great to help blend pieces together. And so I am just going and I'm kind of filling in the blanks. And I forgot how valuable it is to have. I probably could have finished this a lot faster by filling it in a little bit sooner, but it is so great to kind of pull everything together because of that transparency feature. So you can see I just gestured to this area I'm about to cover being kind of harsh. I just covered up that piece. I was like, you know what? I think I would like this better. I think it would blend more nicely right there. So I didn't entirely cover it up, but I definitely covered up most of it. So there's a couple of other places where I can see maybe the canvas a little bit. I'm about to obsess over this piece over here and cover it with a little bit more tissue paper. But I just really love the way it works. And tissue paper is relatively inexpensive. And one sheet of tissue paper, you could probably use over multiple paintings if you're using it like this. So it's great for blending. So yeah. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this. I really enjoy making it, and I will definitely be doing it more in the future. All right, so here is the next day after it's fully dry. It will get a coat of varnish, so some of this will probably gloss up. So this is where the tissue paper is, so you can see that part's a little flatter. But I really like the way it turned out. I was tempted to add some embellishments, but she likes the kind of the patchwork thing, so I want to see what she thinks. But just so you can see the detail, this is that packing paper I told you I saved and used. And this is that paper I used some bloom paints for. You can see the subtle sparkle. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's too glossy. But in person you can see it. But yeah, hopefully you like these, because I'm not gonna like not do the other things, but I am definitely still going to do this. I really enjoy it. And I impulse bought a lot of stencils, so they're gonna have to get used wisely now. But yeah, let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching and for all of your kind words and support. And let's hope that my stepdaughter really likes this one, because it was definitely a labor of love. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.